was first used in the 1960s to describe people who decided to escape from unhappy marriages instead of going through divorce proceedings. An estimated 100,000 Japanese people purposely disappear every year, among several hundred thousand that disappear due to other reasons. The real numbers are not known since a database of missing people does not exist in Japan, and official reports are massively underreported. Why do so many people willingly disappear? Someone may wish to disappear if they are trying to escape domestic violence, gambling debts, escaping from religious cults, stalkers, oppressive employers, or difficult family situations. The shame of losing your job, divorce, depression, addiction, or even failing an exam can be motivators. This phenomenon can be seen all over the world. However, it is most prevalent in Japan due to certain cultural factors. Japan's harsh work culture, plus a lack of family and community support, has contributed to the prevalence of jouhatsu in Japan. Quitting or losing your job at a company is seen as shameful. People may resort to suicide, working to death, known as karoshi, extreme isolation, known as hikikomori, or jouhatsu. In terms of working culture, a new graduate can find themselves in a hierarchical office environment from the 1980s. Vacation time has become shorter, working hours longer, and more demanding on the individual. In 2016, more than 20% of Japanese companies said their employees worked over 80 hours of overtime each month. These conditions have perpetuated the phenomenon of karoshi, of which experts estimate are over 10,000 cases per year. However, jouhatsu seems to be a more popular alternative. An apparent advantage of jouhatsu is that it can spare the family from costs resulting from debts, clean-up fees, and disruption of service fees in the case of platform jumpers. There are companies dedicated to assisting your disappearance called yonegeya, or night-moving companies. They could charge between $400 to $4,000 for their services, depending on your amount of possessions, the distance you're moving, if children are included, and if the client is evading debt collectors. There are also published do-it-yourself guides on how to become jouhatsu on your own without any help. One such book is called The Complete Manual of Disappearance, with the tagline, "Abandon your sad, pathetic reality." It was written in 1994 by Masanori Kashimura. Private investigators are is a skid row in Tokyo and is reported to be a hiding place for the jouhatsu. In 1966, it was removed from Tokyo's maps and incorporated into surrounding districts. Kamagasaki in Osaka is another popular neighborhood where it is possible to live without an ID. What work can be found in these areas is run by the Yakuza, the Japanese mafia, or by employers looking for cheap off-the-books labor. The jouhatsu tend to live in tiny, squalid hotel rooms, often without internet or private toilets. Talking in most hotels is forbidden after 6 p.m. Many times, due to Japan's strict privacy laws, the jouhatsu cannot be found. Police will not interfere unless there is a crime or an accident. In Japan, the topic of jouhatsu is taboo in regular conversations. These so-called evaporations have surged in Japan at certain points when shame was at its highest, such as in the aftermath of World War II and during the financial crises of 1989 and 2008. One story is of a man named Norihiro. Now in his 50s, he disappeared himself over 10 years ago. He had been cheating on his wife, but his true disgrace was being fired from his job as an engineer. He was too ashamed to tell his family. Each morning he put on his shirt and tie, kissed his wife goodbye, and drove to his former office building. Then he spent the entire workday sitting in his car, not eating or calling anyone. Norihiro did this for 1 week. The fear that the truth would be discovered was unbearable for him. In an interview he said, "I couldn't do it anymore. After 19 hours, I was still waiting because I used to go out for drinks with my boss and colleagues. I would roam around, and when I finally returned home, I got the impression my wife and son had doubts. I felt guilty. I didn't have a salary to give them anymore. And without a salary, he could not continue the lie. So on what would have been his payday, Norihiro got ready as normal and got on his usual train line, but in the other direction, towards Sanya. He left no message or note. For all his family knows, he went into suicide forest and killed himself. Today he lives under an assumed name in a small windowless room that he locks with a padlock. He drinks and smokes a lot and has resolved to live the rest of his life there as a form of self-punishment. He said, "After all this time, I could certainly take back my old identity, but I don't want my family to see me in this state. Look at me. I look like nothing. I am nothing. If I die tomorrow, I don't want anyone to be able to recognize me." Another of the jouhatsu story is Sugimoto. He is 42 years old and said, "I got fed up with human relationships. I took a small suitcase and disappeared. I just kind of escaped." Sugimoto says that back in his small hometown, everybody knew him because of his family and their prominent local business, which Sugimoto was expected to carry on. But having that role forced upon him caused such distress that he suddenly left town for good and told no one where he was going. Like many others, feelings of sadness and regret haunt them long after they leave their lives behind. As well as his business, Sugimoto left his wife and kids in their small town. He says, "I constantly have a feeling that I've done something wrong. I haven't seen my children in a year. I told them I'm on a business trip." His only regret was leaving them. Sugimoto revealed, "Only my first son knows the truth. He's 13 years old. The words I can't forget are, 'What Dad decided is Dad's life, and I can't change it.' It sounds more mature than me, doesn't it?" Sugimoto is currently staying in a home in a residential district of Tokyo. The company that's housing him is run by a woman called Miho Saita, who we'll talk about in a moment. Nighttime Movers was one such company which offered services to help you disappear. It was started by a man named Shu Hattori. He'd run a regular moving service until one night in a karaoke bar, a woman asked Hattori if he could arrange for her to disappear along with her furniture. She said she could not stand her husband's debts, which were ruining her life. His services enabled people who wanted to make their disappearances look like abductions, their homes to look like they've been robbed, with no paper trail or financial transactions to track them down. Hattori charged $3,400 per midnight move. His clientele was vast and included housewives who'd shopped their families into debt, women whose husbands had left them, and university students who were sick of doing chores in their dorms. Hattori said, "People often associate this with cowardice, but while doing this work, I came to understand it as a beneficial move." He eventually quit this line of work after 9 years. As a child, Hattori had disappeared himself with his parents from Kyoto after they found themselves in debt. He later ended up serving as a consultant for a 1990s Japanese TV show about the jouhatsu. It was called Yonegeya Honbo, or Flight by Night, a fictional series based on true vanishings. Miho Saita is the owner of one of the bigger night-moving companies called Yonegeya TS Corporation. For a fee, she helps people find new homes and new jobs, pharmaceutical company had been giving the boy powerful sedatives. The woman was worried about her son being harmed or overdosing, so she asked Saita if she and her son could just disappear. Saita is no stranger to disappearing. Around 20 years ago, she escaped a violent husband in the coastal prefecture of Kanagawa, where she managed several restaurants. She says, at that time, there was no law to protect domestic violence victims. The police could only ask the abuser to stop. I took the car and the dog and I disappeared. Saita was offered no help from family or police, which caused her to start her own business. The company provides free consultations, and their website has a variety of information on how they can assist you, such as taking out dummy cell phone contracts or redirecting mail to red herring apartments. In stalking cases, the company can sweep cars and houses for bugs and tracking devices. Each day, they receive between 5 and 10 inquiries like the one Saita described. Most people simply require counseling or legal advice, although the company claims to help between 100 and 150 people vanish every year. 2015 official statistics show 1 in 4 Japanese women were suffering abuse from their spouses. Some experts think the real numbers could be much higher. Saita said, almost all my clients have gone to the police and filed a report, but the police cannot give practical help. Domestic violence victims make up about 20% of the company's workload. Occasionally, people want to disappear with no obvious explanation. Saita said, when we ask, where do you want to go? They say, I don't know, I just want to change myself. I don't belong here. They are looking for a new place, a new world. With a whole industry dedicated to helping people disappear, there is also one dedicated to finding them. There were over 5,600 registered detective agencies in Japan in 2015. One of the largest in Tokyo is called Hara, with about 100 detectives. Masashi Kikuchi is one of their private investigators. He explained that most inquiries they get are from people seeking proof of cheating partners, or parents snooping on their child's boyfriend or girlfriend. About 20% of their cases concern missing people. The firm specializes in those who disappeared between 10 days to 1 month ago. Kikuchi said that people mostly vanish due to breakdowns in family relationships. Running away from unethical companies or gambling debts is also common. They generally seek refuge in pachinko parlors or cheap motels. About 10% of his cases end up being suicides, while 20% of their missing cases are dead ends. They can't tell if the person committed suicide or is an even lower class called the hinin, which translates as non-person. They included traveling actors and prostitutes, performing monkey handlers, and people that had abandoned their home villages without permission. Hinin were not counted in censuses. They were not legally allowed to marry or have children. If they did, those children did not officially exist. Their dilapidated settlements were never recognized or documented. Tom Gill, a professor of social anthropology in Japan, says there's a parallel between the expunging of outcast settlements from Edo maps and the removal of the name Sanya from the Tokyo map. It's part of a long-standing tradition of pretending that a problem doesn't exist. Sanya is built on the site of a 17th century execution ground where hundreds of thousands of criminals were beheaded. It was the home of thousands of day laborers during the 1950s and 60s. Occasionally, residents saved money and returned to mainstream society. However, alcoholism, gambling, and poverty were common. It is one of the few remaining skid rows in Japan. However, it looks like any other regular Tokyo suburb. There is no obvious sign of the jouhatsu. The shame which motivates a Japanese person to vanish has the same effect on their families. Many are so ashamed to have a missing relative that they usually don't report it to the police. In the past, to alleviate the shame, such disappearances would often be blamed on the spirits, something called kamikakushi, which means hidden by the gods. Hiring private detectives also may be out of the question, costing around $500 a day, so the families who do search usually turn to a private group called Support of Families of Missing People, which keeps all clients and details private. Its address is hard to find, and its headquarters consists of just one small room with a desk and city walls. The organization is staffed with detectives, often with jouhatsu or suicides in their own families, and they take on these cases pro bono. They average 300 cases every year, with no national database for missing people. Their job is not easy. There are no documents or identifiers, Another unresolved case involved a young mother of a disabled 8-year-old boy. On the day of her son's school musical, in which he was performing, the mother disappeared after promising the boy she would be sitting in the front row. Her seat was empty and she was never seen again. The husband and son were distraught. The woman had never given any indication she was unhappy, in pain, or had done something she thought to be shameful. Divorce rates have always been very low in Japan. Some people decided it was easier to just up and leave their spouses instead of going through the elaborate formal proceedings. Sociologist Hiroki Nakamori has been researching jouhatsu for over a decade. Hiroki said, "In Japan, it's just easier to evaporate. Missing people can freely withdraw money from ATMs without being flagged. Family members cannot access security videos that might have captured them. A wife cannot get hold of her husband's banking information. All the family can do is pay a lot for private detectives, or just wait." A woman was left shocked when one day her 22-year-old son went missing and hasn't contacted her since. She said he failed after quitting his job twice. He must have felt miserable with his failure. She drove to where he was living, searched the premises, and then waited in her car for days to see if he showed up. He never did. She says the police have not been helpful, and says they told her they could only get involved if it was a suspected suicide. But since there was no note, they would not help. She says, "I understand there are stalkers. Information can be misused. This is a necessary law, perhaps. But criminals, stalkers, and parents, all of them are treated the same way due to the protection. With the current law, without money, all I can do is check if a dead body is my son. The only thing left for me." This is a picture of Mikio, one of the rare evaporated people who agreed to be photographed. "These days, I'm no longer afraid of anything," he said. Japanese culture emphasizes uniformity and the importance of the group over the individual. "You must hit the nail that stands out," is a Japanese saying. Those who can't or won't fit into society by following the strict cultural norms and devotion to work, vanishing is seen as freedom. For the younger Japanese who want to live differently but don't want to completely cut ties with family and friends, there's a compromise: the life of the otakus. An otaku is a person that has an intense or obsessive interest, usually in anime and manga. They may live in parallel lives as their favorite anime characters. Out of 137,000 Japanese teens surveyed in 2013, 42% identified themselves as a 42 years old and living in Arkansas when his debts got so high that he decided to disappear. He set up his plan by driving out into the Ozarks to a rented cabin with his wife, daughter and mother-in-law, so that he'd have witnesses. He took his black Labrador and threw it into the Red River, which was in full torrent. Matthew heroically jumped into the water and rescued the dog. But then, in sight of his family, his head went under and he was gone. Nobody was recovered. Matthew had a bag ready downstream with $1,500 in cash. He'd arranged for a friend to meet him and drive him down to Mexico. He left his phone unlocked at a gas station, and when that got stolen, it created a false trail that kept the police busy. Matthew lived for months in Mexico washing dishes at a local cafe. Then he got a fake Iowa driver's license and a social security number in the name of John B. Howard. He created his own work resume and then posed as HR representatives to verify his made-up employment history. Not long afterwards, it was found that Matthew had been maxing out his credit cards. Instead of tragedy, it began to look like a fraud. He finally made contact with his wife, who knew nothing and thought he was really dead. At first, she was hysterical, but soon fell in line with his cunning plan. They conspired to start a new life and moved to South Dakota. His wife and daughter left Arkansas without leaving a forwarding address, but the investigators put a trace on his daughter for when she got enrolled at a new school. Since he had not switched the identity of his whole family, when his daughter started elementary school in South Dakota, alarms went off and quickly led to his arrest 6 months after his disappearance. Another case is of Sherry Papini. In 2016, young mother Sherry Papini vanished while out on a jog near her home in Redding, California. Sherry was reported missing after her husband, Keith, had come home from work to find the house empty. He attempted to reach his wife and then contacted the daycare to find that their kids had never been picked up. He then used the Find My iPhone app to trace Sherry's phone and located it about a mile away from their house. Police believed she ran away, but Keith insisted she would never leave her children behind, so Sherry was classified as a missing person. 22 days after her disappearance, on Thanksgiving, Sherry was found on the side of the road in Yolo County, about 24 kilometers agree